Almost that time. Almost that time. It's that time, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Brent Lambrata, owner of CANIS Behavior and Training. All of you guys who have been participating in this live stream every single week, this just hit me. This is my 4th Sunday live stream that we've been doing. So it's crazy. It's been a month since, a little bit more than a month since all this stuff started. So it's really cool for that you guys are sticking around with me. All the news is saying that things are kind of flattening or going down, but I don't really think anyone really knows. But I want to just thank you guys for joining with us. My clients who are very faithful clients who are here doing their homework every single day. Thank you guys so much. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for the posts on Instagram and social media, because I think that is just so sweet. And it really, as a teacher, there's nothing more rewarding than seeing students go out of their way, spend their time, because our goal here is for you guys to become your dog's expert, and just spending time with them, getting to know them, that really close bond and relationship that you guys thought you had. I guarantee now you guys have an even closer relationship than you did before. So thank you guys so much for joining us. So I wanted to start here over at the workstation real quick because I wanted to give you guys some feedback. We did 2 puppy sessions over this last weekend, on Wednesday and on Friday. What I like to call hashtag Corona puppies. A Corona puppy is a dog who has been recently purchased, adopted, or fostered during this Corona period time. We see a huge influx in telephone calls of people who wanted to bring a new dog into their home, and there are so many questions that we keep getting. So I decided to do 2 separate 2-hour seminars. One is live on YouTube, one is live on Facebook, and I'll show you guys how to access those right now. If you guys know any fosters or volunteers who are fostering, or any people who just adopted a rescue, or anybody who just got a puppy, please go ahead and grab these videos off of our YouTube and send it over to them. You can send a little URL to them or a text, because this should be very, very helpful. I am also offering anything that was covered in that manual, or in that YouTube live streams, on the Facebook live streams. I am also offering 30-minute free sessions to go over anything that maybe they're having struggles with. Online, we can do a FaceTime, we can do a Zoom chat, all that stuff. So I just want to let you guys know that. And so let me go ahead and show you guys how we're going to go ahead and navigate this on YouTube. This is Maroon 5. So this is my little workstation that I have in my office. Those of you guys who don't know, I used to make music actually a long time ago, which would explain the studio setup. But here, let's go ahead. So we're here at youtube.com. And what you want to do is you want to go to the search engine. You want to type in CANIS Behavior and Training. And if you type in CANIS Behavior and Training, the very, very first thing that pops up right here is my YouTube channel right here. And go ahead and click on that. And here you guys will see all the live streams that I've done. So hashtag Corona puppies, which is this guy here. Go ahead and you can come here to the page.
We can teach them obedience.
You can come here to share. Copy this URL right here and go ahead and send it off to anybody who you think might benefit from this. There's a couple questions that were asked and answered on the side. It's a 2-hour seminar that normally, it's a service of ours that we normally do for people, but we're offering it to you guys free on YouTube and on Facebook. So this is how you find it on YouTube. If you guys want to go to Facebook, just type in facebook.com/CANIS Behavior. And if you guys do that, you will see the very first post on the very, very top of my page is actually the Facebook live stream, this guy right here. Now this one is slightly different than the Wednesday stream. The Wednesday stream was all geared towards puppies. This particular one is actually geared towards rescues and fosters. So he really explains a lot of the things that we see as dog trainers in the rescue community with dogs, behavior issues, things like that. So we want to really give people a head start to make sure that they don't fall into certain patterns that might lead the dog to have separation anxiety or overprotection, or codependency issues. And most importantly, we really want to educate you guys on this channel about the importance of structure and a routine, because our dogs have found this this newfound attention for the last month. My biggest fear is what's going to happen when we all go back to work. What's going to happen when we all go, back to our normal lives. I can almost predict that we are going to have some type of many calls on dogs who are stressed, dogs who have separation anxiety. So those people who are at least in my circle, or those people who you guys share these videos with, please let them know that this is a possibility. And just to help our dogs and protect our dogs from unnecessary stress, we have to start doing certain types of structure and teaching them to go do their own thing occasionally, even though we're home all the time. So that way the dogs don't get too codependent on us during this time. All right. So anyways, that's where we start today. Just wanted to give you guys that feedback. So let's talk about what our today's goal is. So those of you guys who are tuned in and checked in, we are working on today the breakdown between a trick, a command, and a behavior, right? Or a responsibility, right? So these are 3 different stages in training. A trick I would usually define as something that the dog does in exchange for something, right? So I have a cookie, I tell Rover to sit, Rover sits, he gets a cookie for it. At that stage, the command sit in my book is just a trick, okay? What turns it into a command is that we can call upon it at any given time, right? So without the treat in my hand, if I can go, Rover, sit, and he goes, yeah, and he sits right down, then it's starting to become a command. If I can do that consistently or at random, now it is a command, right? And what a behavior would be is where the dog, or responsibility, is where we've taught the dog the context in which he has to do that thing almost 100% of the time. So like, for example, again, for sit, does my dog always sit at the front door before we go for a walk? Does my dog sit at every single threshold? If you've been consistent with that and you've practiced that throughout the dog's life, you're going to see your dog naturally, anytime you come to a stop at any threshold, the dog will naturally sit without you having to say, right? So really there's kind of like a step-by-step process of how we turn a trick into a command and the command into a responsibility or a job. Okay, so we're going to break that process down for you guys. I would like to challenge you guys today, or in this whole week, to pick a command. It could even be a trick. It could be like give paw, roll over. It could be anything like that. But what we want to do is we want to see if we can call upon it at any time. So if you guys taught a trick from last week or some of the previous weeks before, or if you guys find yourself that you are still having to use excessive hand signals and body language to get your dogs to do stuff. Like, so for example, if here, let me see. Oh, too far. Okay. So let's say, for example, you ask your dog to lay down and you still have to go Rover down, and touch the floor. Then that means you're still in the trick phase, right? The dog is only doing it if you physically give this dog this signal. Okay, what the command phase looks like is if I'm here and I say, go down, Rover, and he goes right down without me having to do too much work, right? So when it's a trick, usually the humans are doing a lot of work. When it turns into a command, the dog is doing all the work and the human is doing all the rewarding and reinforcement, okay? So if you guys are there with the trick, what we're gonna teach you today is how to transition from that trick to the command phase. All right. I think the tricky part is going from the trick, or going from the command to the responsibility. That literally takes hundreds and hundreds of repetitions in order for the dog to get it perfect. There are some dogs who can get a little bit faster, but for consistency and reliability, we want to make sure we practice hundreds and hundreds of times. Okay. So let me go ahead and grab a dog real quick, and we're going to go ahead and work on a very simple concept called the bed command. Okay, now the bed command is a great representation of going from a trick to a command. You're going to start seeing that the dog starts anticipating things, and we're going to talk about today what we call abbreviations. We're going to talk about phasing out signals in food. And we're going to work also on just some of our basic normal obedience stuff as well. Okay. So let me go ahead and grab a puppy. Right back. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay, Mr. Falcor. You guys remember Mr. Falcor from last week and I think the week before. So we're going to go over the basic shaping of bed command. We have our cot right here. He definitely does know this command already, so I'm not trying to pull a fast one on you guys, but I do want to show you the shaping process. So in essence, how do we turn this into a trick? Okay. Hey, Falcor. Falcor. Hold on, he sees a tennis ball. Good boy. Okay, so the basic idea when we start with bed, we're going to go ahead and have some type of cot. It could be a blanket, it could be a towel, whatever it is, but just something that's separate from the rest of the floor. Doctor. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the dog in a nice setup. So I always want my dog on the opposite side of me, and I want the bed on the opposite side of me, on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide the dog over. When the dog gets all 4 paws on, yes, I'm going to mark the dog and give him food. Okay? Okay. We're going to try this again. Sit. Good. Oops, I dropped it. Okay. And we're just going to shape it. All 4 paws. Yes. And we're going to release the treat. We're going to get the dog off and start him again. So this is position 1 on one side of me. Position 2 is on the bed, the opposite side of me. So I'm just going to practice this just a couple times. Yes. Good. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead. Oh, real quick tip. You're giving the dog a treat here on this side for getting in ready position. You're giving a dog for a treat on the bed for getting all 4 paws on the bed. So we're going this. Yes. Okay. So now the next transition, and we can do this very, very quickly. Sit. We're going to get the dog to sit on this side and then get the dog to sit on that side as well. So here we go. So we're here. The dog sits. Yes. Okay. So now the sit becomes a prerequisite to getting treat, right? So we get him off. Sit. Good boy. We're going to just do this 2 more times. Sit. For those of you who are practicing at home, again, he does know this command already. We're just kind of showing you the stage-by-stage steps. Off. Good boy. All right. And we're going to get an SIT. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually ask him the DOWN. Yes. Okay. Now this will be the final position in the bed command. Good boy. Okay. Off. So the command for getting back into ready position is the off. Now this also helps prime the dog for a bunch of other things too. Get off the couch, get off of me, get off of that. Just anywhere that we could use the word off in a positive reinforcement way, you're going to see the dogs are going to nail it. Here we go. So we're on. We guide the dog back down. Now notice, guys, I'm not saying the word go to your bed yet. Right? Again, just like every other command, we're just shaping it first. Good boy. Sit. Good. I'm going to start naming this after the dog understands what to do. All right. So we get the dog back on. Yes, good boy. And now I'm only marking when the dog's in down position. So now what I can start doing is I can actually start going straight to the downward position. Good boy. Come on. Yes, good dog. Okay. Now actually, Falcor, I take this back. Falcor hasn't practiced this on the cot before. He's only practiced this on his actual bed. So this is actually kind of new for him. The concept isn't new, but the surface is new. So you're going to see kind of an unfamiliarity with Falcor and this idea. Okay, so now that we kind of have this fluidity where the dog can get off, and the dog can get on and immediately goes down, Now we're at the trick phase, right? So now we have a dog who knows the behavior. We're able to get that behavior reliably, but we need to have food in our hand in order to do it. Okay, this is what we call the trick phase. How we turn it into a command is actually really just through repetition. So the and a couple phasing out. So the very first thing that I do is my right hand is no longer going to have food in it, but my left hand will have all the food, but the dog will still get treats at the very end. So my right hand is not luring with food anymore. It's just going to give a signal. So watch this. Okay. Yes. And then I can throw a piece of food in my right hand and pop it into the dog's mouth. Okay? Same thing with off. Come on. Sit. Good boy. He's still getting treats at the same designated area. What I'm doing though is I'm just not relying on the smell of food in my hands anymore or the visual of food for the dog to actually do the behavior. So here we go. Bed. Yes. Good job. Very nice. Off. Sit. Good boy. Okay, I'm starting to name it now because he knows the command. Bed. Good. Very nice. Okay. Off. So this is phase number 1. Okay. I'm just taking food out of this hand and just giving the dog a signal. So one more time. Bed. And the dog knows the signal and he gets food. Okay. So if we were to do this without the dog, come here. Come. Sit. Stay. Stay. If we were to do this without the dog, my body language is like this. Right? I'm leaning over the bed, hovering over it, and pointing down to it. Okay? So this is what we call the full phrase of the lure. Right? So this is a full phrase. What we're going to do is we're actually going to start abbreviating the phrase a little bit. So abbreviation is just like in words. It's where you, instead of saying the whole word, you make just a couple letters. You make the phrase smaller, pretty much. So instead of me going like this and pointing down to the ground, I'm just going to point to the bed. And I'm going to actually remove the pointing down part. Okay? Now abbreviations change from command to command, but this is ultimately what I'm doing. This is the full phrase. And then this is what I'm going to do now. Just that. Okay? Come here, boy. Sit. Good boy. All right. Backward bed. Good boy. Okay? Now that happens probably after 20 to 30 repetitions of this exercise. So just practice first with the hand. The key is you want to repeat things over and over and over until the dog starts anticipating what the end result's going to be. Okay? Off. So we're going to do that abbreviation one more time. Again, I'm removing the pointing down to the ground because I'm assuming that my dog should already know this part. Bed. Yes. Good boy. Okay. So notice how I'm just pointing and the dog is now finishing the sequence all by himself. This is how we start turning something into a command. Okay. Now, if I were to do this a little bit, so let's say I did this 20, 30 times. I did it 2 or 3 sessions. And I'm ready to now move it a little bit further away. Sit. And I wanted to walk further away from the bed. Good boy. Hardcore, go to bed. Now notice I just took away the stepping towards the bed now. So I took away 2 things in the second round. I took away the pointing down to the ground, and I took away the stepping in. Right? So now I'm just going, go to bed. Okay, and little by little, this becomes the execution of the command. Good boy. Sit. Good dog. Ready? Go to bed. That's okay. And if he makes a mistake, this could totally happen. Just going to repeat ourselves. Go to bed. Yes. Good boy. Now, I marked the moment he was on the bed because in the back of my mind, I knew he was already going to do what I told him to do. All right. I want to just remind everybody, this is a fast forward of what your dogs will be doing eventually. So this is probably every stage I'm doing 20 to 30 reps before I move to the next stage. Right. A couple things that you have to look for before moving on to the next stage is the dog anticipating? Is the dog getting it? Right. If he is, then you can go ahead and just move, phase out the pointing down or stop stepping forward towards the bed. But this is something that we develop over and over and over. It will take anywhere between 3 to 4 sessions for your dog to get as fluid as Falcor is. Okay? Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to teach you guys this with a brand new puppy who doesn't really know everything, but I want to show you guys the shaping stage, and hopefully the puppy shows us the anticipation that we're looking for in this command. I'm also going to practice this with the sit command, the down command, and the stand command, so you guys can see how this all comes together. Let me go grab our little friend Oreo. I'll be right back. Good boy. Who's a good friend? All right, guys. Oreo is a little dude. He's about, let's see. I don't know if you guys have met him yet. Shh, don't play with that. Okay, good boy. Maybe we'll put him on the ground here. Don't eat this. Don't eat it, boy. Don't eat it, Oreo. Okay. Going down. That's very nice. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. You crazy dog. You crazy. Okay. So now, we're going to just go over some obedience with him first, just to warm him up. Oreo is about 4 months old, 4.5 months old. He's a mini sheepadoodle. And he actually just finished playing with his friends right now, so hopefully he has some energy for us. But let's go ahead and go over sits, downs, stands. I'm going to show you guys how we shape this stuff. Hey, right. So obviously we know sit, we just kind of raise the treat above the dog's head and the dog sits, okay? For down, we take the treat like this, and then we go between the dog's paws and the dog lays down, all right? For those of you who can get the profile, we go up like this and down. Now for the stand command, there are ways that we can teach stand. So we can ask the dog to sit and we can pull it forward so the dog stands up on all 4 legs. Let me show you that. Stand. Good boy. So this is one way of doing it. Sit. Stand. Or another way is where we teach the dogs to kick back out their back legs. So he's in a sit position. Sit. And we teach the dog to kick back that way. So what I'm doing in this position is I'm grabbing the food and I'm like reaching for his collar. So sit. So I go under his chin. I want you guys to see the profile. Sit. I go under his chin and his back legs pop out. Okay, this also helps prime the dog to learn how to walk backwards. So we teach him to walk backward, we teach him to walk forward, we teach him to walk backwards. Good. And we just develop that motor skill where he can walk backwards at any given time, right? So sit, down, sit, stand, yes. Okay, so as long as the food is in my hand, we are still in the trick phase. Okay, so food in my hand, I can get him to do sit, down, sit, stand, down, sit, stand, down, and we can get him to do a bunch of cool stuff, but I asked him to do 4 or 5 repetitions for one treat. Okay, this is another part of turning a trick into a command. Get the dog to do it multiple times, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times for one treat. Right? A lot of times people rely so heavily on the food and they don't phase the dog out. The dog ends up becoming super aware of your treat. Your hands don't smell like treats, or I don't see the treat in your hand, so I'm not going to perform the trick because there's nothing in it for me. Okay. The key here is very quickly we can actually start phasing out food to trick the dog into thinking that there is food in my hand. So we're going to go back to phasing out food in my right hand, and I'm going to ask him to do 3 or 4 position changes. Hey, Oreo. Sit, down, sit, come on. Yes, good boy, he gets a treat. Come on, sit, down, sit, stand. Yes, good boy. And again, I'm doing it with an empty hand. Sit, down, sit, down, down. Good boy. Sit, stand, Yes, good boy. Perfect. Okay, so as long as the dog is getting treated in the same sequence, he starts just focusing on the work and not on the treat that's actually not in my hand. Okay, so this is stage number 1. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start working on developing anticipation. Okay, when you guys have a very clear signal, just like I had the very clear signal of pointing to the bed for Falcor, you guys now use that signal in a very simple sequence, right? So if I can turn, so we know that the physical signal for sit is raising my hand up. Good, you see what he did there? Like I don't even really need to say anything. I just give him the signal and he sits. Okay, some of you guys might have developed like this. This particular one a lot of people use, I don't understand why, but they start pointing at the dog's butt. There's no eyes on the dog's butt, so I don't know how necessarily it's a signal, but people are guilty of doing it. So come here, Bobby. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the word sit, and then 1 second later raise our hand up. Sit. Half a second later, not 1 second later. Down. Good boy. Down. Yes. Okay. And for this scenario, I'm actually going to treat with the opposite hand. And again, you guys could do this with big dogs, puppies, rescues. It doesn't matter. This is the way dogs learn, right? They pair things. This is classical conditioning at its greatest. Down. Yes. So this hand is hiding food. Sit. Down. Sit. Yes. And the food will come later. So I'm getting the dog addicted to listening to my hand. Come here, boy. Sit. Down. Sit. Yes. Good. Come on. Sit. Down. Sit. 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 Yes, better. Okay. So now what I'm doing is I'm giving a little bit bigger of a delay. I want to see if he starts anticipating what I'm going to ask him to do. Sit. 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 Good. Down. Sit. There you go. Give me 1 second. Let me turn this off. All right. Sit. Down. Down. Yes. Good boy. Down. Yes. Down. No. Down. Yes. Good boy. So that one he actually did completely verbal. Okay. Let's try this again. We're going to keep going. Off. Good boy. Down. Down. Yes. And I'm just going to focus on the down itself. Okay. Down. Yes. Off. Down. Yes. Okay. Down. Yes. Okay, but notice the signal is coming a second later. We're going to see if he gets it in this round. He may not, but let's watch. Down. Yes. Good boy. Down. Yes. Good. Down. Yes. Good boy. But that delay is probably the most important part of this round right here. Down. Yes. Good boy. Sit. Good. Down. Good boy. Now, sometimes when you do this exercise, sit. Good. Down. It almost seems like the dog's never going to get it. It almost seems like just the wrong technique. But then it becomes this magic moment, right? Or you down. Good. Good. Down. There you go. Good. Sit. Down. Down. Yes, good boy. So that magic moment just happened right there. I don't know if you guys saw it. He got it all by himself. Sit. Hey, you, sit. Good boy. Down. Down. Good. It was a lucky round. Sit. Good. Down. Down. Good boy. So I'm giving him a little bit longer to figure it out. Again, I'm just focusing on one command right now. Down. Yes. Good boy. Okay. Come on. Oreo. Down. Yes, you got it. He got it all by himself. That was really nice. Okay, so now we're starting to get a little bit of anticipation, which is key. Let's see if we can do it again. Down. Yes, good boy. So now he's getting it finally. Off. Sit. Down. Yes. So you see the anticipation now. I literally did probably 20 different rounds, and on the 20th round, he decided to go, oh, you mean this command. I made it so obvious by isolating just the down itself, doing it over and over and over and over, that he could almost, he had a high level of probability of getting it, right? So ready, Oreo? Sit. Good. Down. Yes. So now you guys see he's nailing it every single time. He's nailing it because he's finally clicked in his head. Stop. I'm not facing the camera. Face the camera. Here, I'm on. Sit. Stop. We taught him heel earlier. So down. Yes. There you go. Sit. Good. Down. Sit. Anyway. Sit. Down. Down. Good. Okay. And I always want to be a little bit precautious with saying down too many times. So the trick is if I say down more than once, I'm going to give the hand signal. In this scenario where I know he knows it, he's just sometimes a little distracted, I might repeat it once or twice. So here we go. Sit. Good. Down. Down. Yes. Good. So that when we see that the dog has done it a couple times in anticipation, or maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times by verbal, we know that the dog knows the answer, right? The answer hasn't changed. So sometimes we have to then stop giving the dog so much help, right? And I think that's a really, really important part in this learning stage. What I see a lot of dog owners, and actually a lot of, like dog training corporations like PetSmart, Petco, and some inexperienced food trainers, they don't teach this phasing out of food part to you guys, right? And this is ultimately why your dog can be 2 or 3 years old and you still need a treat in your hand to get the dog to listen to you. Okay, sit. Down. Down. Yes, good boy. Good boy. But notice I didn't give a hand signal. I know he knows it, so I'm being stubborn with him. He's only going to get the food if he works for it. Off. Down. Off. Good boy. Good. Sit. Good. Good boy. All right. So now that I have this control down, what I was working on, I didn't tell you guys, but I'm working on this down so that I could teach him to go onto a bed, right? He doesn't know this exercise yet. Sit. Sit. Down. Good boy. So what's happening is when I say down, he wants to just come to this bunch of treats that I have and try and just steal treats from my hand, right? Instead of just doing what it's supposed to do. So I have to kind of be a little bit oppositional in that moment where he gets all on my hand. So here we go. All right, just one more explanation of what we just did. I shaped the sit, I shaped the down, then I just isolated down all by itself. Okay, anytime the dog would sit, I'd ask him to go down. I pretty much gave him a pop quiz where the only answer was one answer, right? And if I did it that way, eventually he starts anticipating what the word means. And when he starts nailing it, then he would get treated for those moments, okay? So go ahead and watch the playback. But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and shape that bed command for you guys. He already has the down, which is part of the bed command. So I need to shape the down before I actually jump into bed command. So here we go. Come here, boys. Oh yeah. Okay. Just you get on the bed. Yes. All 4 paws on the bed. He gets a treat. Sit. Good boy. Bed. Actually, I'm not going to start saying the words yet until he nails it. Okay. Anyway. Sit. Good boy. So we're just shaping this part first. He does already know the down part, so we're just going to go straight to down. Good boy. Come on. Get all the way in. Come on. Bed's a little too small for his body. There you go. Good. I wanted all of his body on there. Good job. All right. Come here. Let's do it real quick. Sit. Good dog. Let's go. Straight down. Yes. Good dog. Let's go. Yes. Good boy. Notice he's staying in that down now because I've oversaturated that down every single time. Right? Oversaturation just means he gets a lot of treats in that position. So you're going to see that like anytime you practice something like a paw command, you're going to see your dog always offers you paw. Anytime you practice down a lot, you're going to see that your dog constantly offers you down position. Right? So this is oversaturation. And sometimes it's a bad thing in dog training. Sometimes it's a good thing in dog training, depending on what the behavior is. Oh, yeah. It's not mine. Well, and here's a dog barking in the other room. Come here, buddy. Sit. Good. Here we go. Wait. Come here, boy. He's a little distracted right now. And go down. Yes. Okay. So you guys kind of saw, hopefully you guys saw two halves of how this works. Bed command. We developed a trick and we started leaning into it starting to become a command. Okay. Just those of you guys who are just checking in with us, a trick is something that the dog has to do with food in your hand. That's what I consider to be a trick. A command is verbal recognition of what it is that you want, right? So we turned that down from being a trick to being a command right now because we conditioned him over and over and over to just know the verbal down. Let's see if he remembers. Right here. Sit. Good. Down. Down. Let's warm him up a little bit. Sit. Good boy. Down. Down. Good boy. Perfect. And he now knows the verbal command. So he still has a lot of work for that to be a solid command. But the key is my dog is now verbally recognizing what I want him to do and doing it for me. Right. So that's a huge shift in dog training. And that's the biggest difference between, what we do as professionals versus what common people do with their dogs. Okay. I really wish people taught this phasing out process. And here's the thing, you guys can phase out early on. You guys can phase out in the same session, right? Toward the end of the same session, you can start phasing food out. You can start abbreviating signals. The biggest telltale sign that you're ready to do that is that the dog starts anticipating the behavior, right? So yeah, I'm gonna go grab one more dog and I'm gonna show you guys what a command looks like, all right? Or what a full developed command, and then also what a behavior might be, right? So let me show you. Come on. There he goes. Everybody, it's the happy neighborhood Black Dynamite. This is my dog. I love him. Morning, Dynamite. Good morning. Okay, so let's go ahead and move this to slightly different setup. All right. So when we talk about commands over behaviors, right? So let's see this. A command would be something that I can call upon at any given time. So hopefully he doesn't make me look like a dummy right now. Let's see. Dynamite. Dynamite. What are you doing? Go to bed. Go to your bed. Go that one. Go to your bed. Yeah. Okay. He normally uses like a fluffy bed, so this is weird for him. Okay. But the key is if I tell him to go to bed, I also expect him to stay on bed. So let's see if he stays. Right? And I expect him to relax on bed until I release him. Right? So commands also have longer definitions than tricks. Normally, tricks are just 2-3 seconds and the dog gets a reward. A command has to always have some level of patience, self-control, and waiting for permission, right? So at the command level, you see how his butt plopped to the side. This is something that I taught him over time, so he gets it. Just like you and I, doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. It just means he knows when he's agreed to do the behavior, he's agreed to do it a certain type of way, right? Okay, good boys, good boys. And so what I can do now is I no longer have to reward Dynamite with treats. I can reward him with just a toy or something that he likes. Sometimes freedom in the bed exercise is actually the reward itself. So look at that. Let me see, there's a couple questions here. Let's see. Okay, so how would you know if you oversaturated? What would happen in the negative way? Oversaturation looks like, oversaturation will look like your dog constantly let's say you rewarded the wrong behavior. I guess, could you give me more context of what you mean by in a bad way? Like the dog is offering it to you and you're not asking for it, right? Like maybe like going to his bed or giving you a paw or rolling over without you asking. Is that kind of like what you're talking about, Susan? I think there's like a 20-second delay, so I'll wait. And also, guys, if you guys have any questions locked and loaded, go ahead and just pop them in. I'm happy to just answer them as we go. Or I'm going to end this at Q&A for around the 50-minute mark. So we'll do some Q&As. You said sometimes oversaturation can be negative. Yeah, so oversaturation can be negative in the circumstances where like dogs are offering you behaviors in the wrong place. Also, oversaturation can happen on accident, like where we are praising or giving positive feedback for bad behaviors. Like let's say a dog is being aggressive, right? So the common one that we see is like dogs are like barking at another dog on the street, and people will go, no, it's okay. Shh, no, it's all right. It's all right. That's all right. And we kind of coddle that dog in that circumstance. And what happens is we can actually reinforce that behavior of lunging, barking, snapping at other dogs, right? Without knowing it, we're just trying to calm our dogs down. So that's an example of oversaturation for a bad behavior. But yeah, sometimes it can have a negative response when we're trying to teach other commands, right? So if you ask your dog to sit and they're constantly rolling over because you practice that all week, then it's going to be kind of an annoyance. So pretty much what you want to do is you stop rewarding for rolling over for those sessions, right? Because what's going to happen is the dog's going to go, but I'm doing the thing, and he keeps rolling over or giving paw, whatever it is that you tell him to do, and it gets the dog kind of frustrated, and you're going to see the dog get so frustrated that he might start whining, barking, because you taught him that rolling over is the way you get food, right? So anyways, I hope that answered your question. I love you. Who's a good handsome boy? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and continue back to just the difference between a command and then also the behaviors, right? So a couple things that we did in the command. Let's see. Will the puppy challenge the commands that he knows when he grows older, meaning he refuses to follow them as he grows older? Yes, I think that's a big thing with any living creature, right? Your dog is not a robot, and no one's dog is a robot, and no one, including humans, are perfect, right? So there is no way for me to guarantee that you, Naveed, or anyone watching will not make a mistake today, right? It doesn't matter how much you practiced it, right? And so what happens is dogs, as they go through different developmental stages, from puppyhood to adolescence, from adolescence to young adulthood, there might be times where they definitely challenge our wills, where they go, well, what if I don't want to? What are you going to do about it? Well, the key is in dog ownership, just like in parenting, is you need to know how to motivate the behavior you want, right? And motivation, it doesn't always mean like, what am I going to give the dog in exchange for this? Because that kind of turns things into a trick. Motivation is, how can I control my dog's space, privileges, and resources so that he understands what that the right decision is to do what I've asked him to do, right? And there are going to be many, many circumstances. Let's try this one real quick. Let me see if I can give you an example. Dynamite. Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed. No, that's not your bed. Okay. That's not your bed. Get in bed. Okay, so there's going to be many examples, like when we have distractions, for example, the dog may not want to listen to you, right? It could be a person at the door. It could be me throwing this toy back and forth. And so this is a different part in developing a command that we call proofing, right? So like literally he was so obsessed on this like a few seconds ago, but what I've done over the years with Dynamite is I've taught him to listen even if there are crazy distractions in front of him, right? So this is a huge part of dog training as well, where we're teaching the dog to withstand their impulses and develop self-control. Now, here's the thing. My dog right now is mentally working. He is telling himself, I want it, but I can't get it, and I have to do what Dad said, because there's been hundreds of repetitions where he's actually not done it right, right? And you guys can even see as I'm asking him to go to bed, I have to really coax him. I almost have to do too much work to my standard in order to get him to go to bed, right? And that was simply because he was distracted in the very, very beginning, right? But while he's committed to do the command, I should be able to have distraction like this, and he shouldn't be able to, he doesn't have to move. Okay, so another part of a command that's very different than a trick is the dog's self-control, patience, and most importantly, his understanding that he is done when I say the sequence is over, right? And so this is something that gets practiced little by little. So we practice more patience, we practice more self-control, and then we require more from the dog as he gets better and better and better. And then guess what the reward is? Okay, oh gosh, good boy. Then he can totally have his toy, okay? Whoa. What is that? What is that? Whoa. Whoa. Good boy. Go get that. Whoa. Good. Okay, those of you guys who don't know, this toy is called the flirt pole. One of my favorite toys and one of Dynamite's favorite toys. Any dog who likes to chase things, squirrels, like squeakers, the flirt pole in essence is just a giant cat toy that allows me to fling a toy around without me having to get exhausted. So I'm just going to give this to Dynamite for now. But that's, I hope that was helpful for you guys. So the difference between a trick and a command is the patience, the self-control, and also the dog is recognizing your verbal signal, not, you don't have to do a lot of things, all right? So I hope that was helpful. Now, here's another one, a behavior, right? A behavior. Behavior is something that we teach dogs that either through conditioning, the dog kind of already knows what you want in this context, or a behavior is an expectation that we've developed, right? So like a lot of times people will ask me, they go, so Brent, what is the command that I use when my dog jumps on the counter and steals something off the counter, right? And that's kind of like saying like, okay, what is the right way to not drown, right? Like if I'm drowning, what's the way to undrown? Right? That might be kind of a little morbid, I know. But the idea is like the key is we want to prevent jumping on the table, if that makes sense, right? So a behavior that we could develop, we could do something like this, right? Where we take a downstate command, and every time we cook and every time we eat in the kitchen, we tell the dog to lay down on his bed in the corner, right? Something like that. And we practice that. First, we have to have a good bed command. Second, we have to make sure our dog has a very good stay and patience and self-control. And then the third thing is we have to repeat it in context over and over and over, where the dog does it without us having to ask, right? And when our dogs do behaviors without having to ask us, this is how we know we've done amazing jobs in dog training. Amazing dogs, amazing jobs, right? I want you to kind of think of it as parenting. It's like the day that I went and washed my own dish, right? Without my mom asking me. That was like the best day of her life, right? The day I cleaned my room without her asking, that was one of the best days of her life, right? So what happens is when we're teaching someone something, it starts off as a trick, if you will, like we shape the behavior. The second part is we condition that behavior the way that we need it to be, right? Where there's a transition from the human doing a lot of work to eventually the dog doing all the work. That transition needs to happen. And then eventually we practice that behavior in context. So in the kitchen when we're eating, in the car, he has to lay down in the back seat. You know, when the doorbell rings, what do we want the dog to do? Does he bark? Do we let that happen? Do we let him go to the bed? It's completely up to you and your parenting style. But the idea here is the dog eventually learns to do commands without you having to say, or doing good behavior without you having to give him a verbal command, right? Huh, Dynamite, I love you so much. You'd be a good boy. Okay, let's see. So I hope that answered your question, Naveed. That was pretty long-winded, sorry. What's up, Dale? How you doing? Great training suggestion. Questions, do you recommend carrying and giving treats with you when out on walks? I do recommend to have treats on you so that you can condition a thought pattern, right? So let's say, for example, like out in the real world, we have so many distractions out there, squirrels, other dogs, people, skateboards, bikes, you name it. Sometimes we need to have tools in our arsenal that can bring the dog's focus back, right? So I would get something that your dog gets really excited and hyper-focused on, like a toy, like a ball, like a squeaky, like a treat pouch, something like that. So that way, if for any reason you need to be extra help, you know how kind of like Batman has his utility belt around him? It's just in case he gets into some shit, right? So I want you guys to have whatever you feel is going to be manageable to carry on you. So food, toys, balls, those types of things, if that's what your dogs are motivated by, totally take those things out with you when you're training and trying to create consistent behavior with your dog, okay? Awesome, guys. I'm going to open this up to some more Q&As. We're going to be on here for the next 5 minutes just answering your guys' questions. Thank you guys so much. I think there was about 15 of you guys at some point that were tuned in. That's kind of been the average engagement rate. So I really want to thank you guys for being here. Again, if you found anything on here that was super helpful, go ahead and share it with your friends, family. This YouTube live video will actually be shareable as soon as we end the stream. So it's pretty cool and they're pretty fast about this stuff. So let me go ahead and go in. If there's any questions, let's see. No questions yet. But yeah, send me your questions, guys. Till then, I'm just gonna play with Dynamite. All right. Where are you? Come here. Up. Yes. Up. Yes. Oh. Oh. Up. Yes. Good ball. Yeah. Up. Yes. Yes. Get him. Yeah. Oh. He's so strong. He's so strong. Yeah. Questions, guys? Could be about anything. Talked about a lot over the last month. Good job. Teaching stay seems to be particularly hard. True. What is a good playtime session, or is it always training? I will get to you, Shaz, Actually, oh, great, all of these. Is there something different to do to have my dog stay when I leave the room? Yeah, so here, let me break down stay for you, Shaz, real quick, and then Naveed, I'll get to your question, because I think that you're not the only person who deals with this, right? So let me grab a leash real quick, and I'm actually just gonna break down stay. I'm gonna kind of plow through it. So it's a very, it's a simple process, but you do need the assistance of a leash, okay? Shaz, are you practicing with a leash at the moment, or are you just practicing off of a leash with food? While you answer that, I'm gonna go grab this tool. Oh my goodness. I did start with a leash, but then switch to using a mat. Okay, so you're using mat. Okay, so I guess let's break down stay into two sections, right? We have our sit stay, we have our down stay. I'll go, I'm okay going over an hour. I'm not worried about that. Want to help you guys out if we can. Here we go. All right. So I'm only addressing this question because I'm sure a lot of you guys have issues with stay. So I would always start with a leash. This is probably going to be the fastest way to teach our dogs to stay. She stays while I'm in her sight, but once I try to disappear, she wants to follow. Okay. How long would you say she stays within your sight? So like, what's the longest she's been in a down stay in your sight? A minute. Okay, that's great. So there is something, and you're using the mat, correct? Let's see, but once I try to disappear, she wants to follow. Okay. You know what I could do then? I would recommend go online. There's something called a relaxation protocol. Relaxation protocol for dogs. It'll be, if you Google it, this will be the very first thing that pops up. It'll be called Journey Dog Training. There's going to be a PDF. And on this PDF, there is a template of day-by-day instructions. This is actually a protocol that dog behaviorists created in order to help dogs who were scared and shy. But what I found out over the years, it actually works really, really well to teach puppies and very hyperactive dogs to stay, right? So it also works for that. So anytime that there's anxiety in the dog, this method actually works wonderfully. So it's called the Relaxation Protocol by Dr. Karen Overall. Those of you guys who are bored at home and you guys want to teach your dogs to stay on their bed longer, practice this. So go ahead and check that out. Relaxation Protocol by Dr. Karen Overall. But pretty much I'm going to give you guys my explanation when it comes to stay, and you're going to see it broken down in Karen Overall's Relaxation Protocol. There are 3 variables that we have to work on when teaching a dog to stay. So number 1 is duration, right? So how long can my dog stay? So Shaz, you said that your dog can stay for a minute. That's wonderful. Now, what I want to know is if in that minute, if that minute looks like this, right? So let me see. Come here. Come here. Sit. If that minute looks like this, where like I'm very, statuesque. Sit. Stay. Or does that minute look like this? Does the minute look like you can do distracting things, like you can run around the dog, and you can do a jumping jack, right? So this is what we want to know about that 1 minute, okay? There's 3 Ds in duration work, which is duration, distance, how far can I get from my dog, and then what level of distraction am I teaching my dog to tolerate? Okay, good boy. Yes, good boy. Okay. So the idea is we want to be able to cycle through a bunch of different types of variables, right? So does my dog hold it for a long duration? Wonderful, you already have a minute. What I would do is I would start teaching the dog to desensitize to different playful movements, right? So can you hop? Can you do a jumping jack? Can you walk 5 steps away and then come back? Can you walk 6 steps away and then come back? Can you walk 10 steps away? Can you turn the corner for 2 seconds and come right back and give the dog a cookie? The key is every potential challenge that you can come up with your dog, give the dog a treat as a like a duration marker, right? So for example, sit. So if I sit, stay. So if I decided to do something like, you know, this, and normally that would get my dog to mess up, but he didn't mess up, I would say, good boy, and I give him a treat. I'd remind him to stay. If I wanted to walk 5 steps this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he would normally chase me, then I'd come back, good boy. All right, a lot of times I think the most common mistake with stay is we're sitting there waiting for the dog to make a mistake, or we're walking around on eggshells hoping that the dog doesn't make a mistake. So I'm not sure if this is what you're doing, but a lot of people do it. So I want you to move more naturally. I want you to do short bursts of very distracting things, and then reward your dog if he passes that test in that round. All right? So I hope that was helpful for you. Okay. Anyway. Good boy. I love you so much. Good boy. Okay, Naveed, I'm going to answer your question now. Oh, and Shaz also, in that relaxation protocol, you're going to see that they actually have a part in the relaxation protocol that says, go out of the room for 5 seconds and come back, right? So everything builds on itself, so that way your dog learns to stay. Okay. All right. So Naveed, your question is, what is a good playtime session, or is it always training? So good question. When dogs are young, like your dog, what we've been working on a lot with him is play sessions are training for this time, right? And it's the same way that like it's really hard for you to teach like your child who may not know how to play baseball. Every time you play baseball with your kid until he's 12, 13 years old is going to be teaching him how to get better, right? So how to play the game better, how to learn the rules better, how to you know be a good sport, like all that stuff, right? So technically right now, while your dog is young, every time you train, what are you doing? What are you doing? Every time you train is going to be a training session, but in the sport or the game that you're trying to teach the dog what to do. So I would just kind of keep that in mind, all right? There will be a time where your dog's really good at the sport or understands the rules of the game completely, where it's just play, right? It's just goofing off. But your question was, what is a good playtime session? Good playtime session could be fetch. It could be tug of war. What I like to do is I like to do structured play and games. So pretty much where we sprinkle in obedience concepts with play, right? So an example of that would be with Dynamite. He doesn't like this. Okay. So like, let's say for example, we're playing tug of war, and then all of a sudden, oh, sit. Yes, oh. So then all of a sudden I interrupt it with a sprinkle of obedience. All right? Oh. Heel. Yes, good boy. Oh, good boy. Yeah. Good boy. You want that one there? You want this one? You want this one? So we're going to sprinkle in obedience occasionally. Oh, down, down. Sit, heel. Back. Heel. Good boy. Yes. Good. So we just kind of sprinkle in some obedience. While we're playing, we're able to kill a couple birds with the same stone. Right? Obedience training and play. But what this also does, forces the dog to burn more brain calories. If the dog burns more brain calories, I have a more relaxed, calm dog for the rest of the day. All right. So one more question if you guys have it. If you guys don't have any more questions, I'll go ahead and wrap this up. I'm just going to go stare at the screen. If you guys have a question, say, no, Brett, I have a question. If you guys don't, I'm going to dip out. But we're going to be back next Sunday. So got to think of what we're going to do. Also, while you guys are thinking of questions, I wanted to let you guys know, if you guys have any questions, if there's anything that we've talked about that you guys want a free online session, go ahead and reach out to me, info@CANIS Dog Training. Please go ahead and add me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's @CANIS Behavior. And check out our website, canisdogtraining.com. Yeah, I want to help you guys as much as possible. Let's take advantage of this time. Also, wanted to see what you guys thought about something. I'm not sure if I have anyone on here from my group classes, but during group class, we had to unfortunately postpone because we're not allowed to meet at the parks. But I've been doing some really awesome virtual sessions online with people and their cell phones or their iPads or their laptops, and they're working out tremendously, right? So one thing I was thinking is, would you guys be open to virtual group classes, virtual sessions where I could see you, you could see me, we could give each other direct feedback back and forth. Let me know if that's something you guys are interested in. If you guys are interested in it, please email me, info@canisdogtraining.com, or write me on Instagram, or go ahead and leave comments right here. But that's something I really want to provide for you guys who are interested in actually putting in real work with your dogs and learning a system to get your dogs from point A to point B. I think this would be the best time for you guys to do it. Okay. All right. Also, want to remind you guys, we have a Dog Trainers podcast. We are live on Google, iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, all of these different podcast networks. So go ahead and check us out. It's called the Dog Trainers Podcast. It's with myself and one of my good dog trainer friends, Mariano Alvarez. And what we are doing is we are talking about a lot of the common things we deal with as dog trainers, giving you guys the dog trainer's perspective. And also in the future, we're going to be inviting a lot of our dog trainer friends, specialists in behavior, veterinary behaviorists, people who are experts in agility, people who do protection sports, all these different types of people who are in the dog training field that we're lucky enough to call our friends to give us their expertise and opinions on certain hot topics. And also, most importantly, questions that you guys might have. So if you guys have any questions that you'd like us to see on that podcast, you can also go to our YouTube channel and you can see those episodes of our podcast that we've done. Right over to us at the Dog Trainers Podcast @gmail.com. And we'd be happy to respond to you guys. Okay. All right. These sessions have been a huge help. I've already seen a change in my dog over the weekend. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. Shaz915, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Share this with anyone that you can. We're so excited to help you guys. All right. I love everybody who's joined us and everybody who hasn't. But see if we can get more people to join us next week. That'd be awesome. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Happy Easter. I completely forgot it was Easter. Oh, my gosh. I got to get something for Dynamite. Don't tell them. But yeah, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay happy. Stay healthy. Stay positive. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye. Hi, Thor and Loki. We'll see you later, Dave. Or Dale. Sorry, Dale.